back to Boys and Ghouls Film Review, folks. I'm your sexy host, Sarah Stephenson, and this is my not-so-sexy co-host, Mike.
Okay. It's more like Jabba the Hutt, is it? Okay. Right.
So tonight we are going to review The Changeling, which was released in 1980.
Yeah, it's a supernatural horror starring George C. Scott. He did actually show up in The Exorcist Part 2 or Part 3?
Part 3.
Part 3. So he doesn't steer away from different roles. He played in Patton when he was younger, a war movie. He's been in horror movies. He's done other things. So he's a very versatile actor. Yeah.
The one thing I like about him is that he can take on many different roles. He could take on...
he does play George C. Scott pretty good. Mm-hmm. It's like John Wayne. John Wayne's always John Wayne, whether he's a Marine or in the Air Force or in the Navy or a cowboy. He's always John Wayne.
He doesn't have to be a sexy guy like James Dean type.
Yeah.
But like so many men we know of, we have our Humphrey Bogart, and we have our Harrison Ford. We have, I don't know whoever else comes to mind, but they do come
Pee Wee Herman? No, not him. No, okay.
But they all carry a bit of something that's a little bit of a good sort of vibe. Where
Sean Connery,
there's that too.
A lot of people like him.
But you got to admit, they got that vibe. The usual
that magnetism
that makes you want
to
listen to their dialogue and listen to them and watch them.
Yeah, the voice.
Well, it's not always about the look. It's
the voice and the body language and things. Yeah.
So, anyway, this movie, don't confuse this movie with this other one that was also had under the same name called The Changeling, which was Angelina Jolie.
There's actually two other movies called The Changeling.
Well, just so you guys know, remember, put in the date.
And if the date doesn't show up, go looking for the actor, which I'll mention in a minute, again, and directors and stuff, and they'll find the right product. Okay? But we'll give you that in a minute. Oh my God. Did I do my bit now?
Yes, you may.
No goody. Okay, here we go. Oh my goodness gracious me. Okay, right. Produced by Joel Michaels, Garth Dobrinsky, and Mario Kazar, whatever. Yeah. Directed by Peter Medak. Screenplay by William Gray and Diana Maddox. Story was by Russell Hunter, so it might have been an original story in a book, maybe.
So you guys know, Russell Hunter. This story was taken from life. So you guys know he actually experienced a similar haunting when he was in a house, and it inspired him to, I guess, write a story for this movie. I don't know if he was also involved in the script writing process, or he just wrote a short story to talk about his own story.
I don't see anything saying it was based on a short story line, but he did collaborate. So he might have done a short story put together, may not have been published, but he thought it might make a good movie, so he had to word the other people.
Well, I took the liberty of actually doing a bit
of...
I actually took the liberty of actually doing a bit of Googling and trying to figure out whether the story was based off true stuff. And I found out that Russell, he stayed in a haunted house, and he started experiencing things like taps, water... filling up in the sink, and he heard banging in the night, and all sorts of weird stuff. He also experienced other stuff where dealing with a dead body that they found much later on that turned out to be a dead body of a child, and we later learned in history books that this couple had a child, and this child died, and they replaced it with another child that sort of had similar features, because they were worried about that because the child, he inherited some money from his late grandfather's will, and if the child dies, then the money will go to the next of kin, but not necessarily to his mum and dad.
Actually, he's talking about the guy who wrote it here. He's talking about the screenplay. I don't normally do this straight up. Okay, the film and screenplay was inspired by mysterious events that allegedly took place at the Henry Treat Rogers Mansion in Cheeseman Park, Denver, Colorado.
Yeah, the place is now torn down, sadly enough.
Can
because
I say this?
Yeah.
Playwright Russell Hunter was living there during the 1960s, and after experiencing a series of unexplained phenomena, Hunter said he found the century-old journal in a hidden room detailing the life of a disabled boy, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
But yeah, as Sarah said, the building was demolished during the 80s, and there's a high-rise apartment on top of it. So there you go. So the ghost can run up and down stairs all it likes now.
Yeah, so as he said, it was a secret room, and this movie has certain Easter eggs in this that link back to that particular historic thing that Russell found in the old house.
Anyway, let's go on to other bits. Who's in it? He asked knowingly. I won't go into everybody, but the main role here is I wouldn't say a hero of mine, but a very fine actor, George C. Scott. He's been in many movies and different things, horror movies and war movies, but he always plays a good George C. Scott. Yeah. Now, Trish Van Devere plays Claire Norman. Oh, sorry, George C. Scott plays John Russell, obviously. Trish Van Devere plays Claire Norman. Melvin Douglas, Senator Joseph Carmichael. I won't go through all the other ones there. They're more like fillers and stuff.
Yeah, they're more hit and miss.
Yeah, well, they're bits and pieces like this. Yeah, walk in, walk out sort of stuff. They're the three main actors. But John Russell, played by George C. Scott, it's all centered around him.
Yeah,
and his experiences in the haunted house and how the ghost is trying to contact him. But now, getting on to that a bit further, going down the line, box office and budget and stuff. Now, budget, this might be then dollars, I don't know. $6 million budget and made about $12 million at box office. And now that doesn't cover home media and stuff and syndication and stuff. Right. So it obviously paid for itself. May not have been a top runner, but it made some decent money, so no one went broke. What else? Well, we said that, did that. Okay. I would say one thing though, being back in the 80s, a lot of the stuff they did, no CGI or very little. I don't. They might have been a bit of green screen here and there.
Teeny weeny.
And yet, really basic stuff. They relied on the old way of doing things, and you look at it. You say, that's not bad. I must admit, yeah. When they're trying to drown a boy in the bathtub, he looked like he was really drowning. He's okay, he's alive.
Yeah. Imagine during some takes, they probably had to be careful.
They might have put a midget in there or something when they're trying to drown a boy or something. I don't know. But the point is that they made it look so damn good. Yeah. So anyway, do you want to take away and tell the story?
Yeah, sure thing. So, John Russell, who is a bit of a composer and a professor for music, if that's the real term, and he's traveling with his wife and his kid along a snowy
on a holiday somewhere.
And when their car got stuck, got car trouble.
They might have run out of petrol. The car stopped anyway. They pushed the car off the side of the road.
Yeah, while
he makes a phone call.
Yeah, while he's on the phone trying to get a tow truck, whatever. This big truck and another car were coming in the opposite directions.
One was coming up the road. The truck was coming up the road, and the car came out of a side road, and there was an accident. And the truck banged straight into their car and ran over the wife and the daughter.
Yeah.
Guess what? The car didn't survive.
And both mother and daughter are dead.
That too. Yeah.
So probably a few months later, I think he is still a little sad of the loss of his daughter and his wife, and he wants to lock himself away in a place to sit down and think about nothing but music.
Yes, immerse himself in his chosen career as a lecturer and a music composer and things such as that. There you go.
And of course it's hard when you have this sort of thing on your mind. So he goes to a bunch of friends who have friends in sort of who rent out old properties in the area.
Well, he was made aware of it. I don't know if he had friends, but someone suggested they knew somebody.
Yeah.
These old historical properties.
Historic housing thingying, I don't know what they call it.
Yeah, but they're into an old mansion from from an agent for the local historical society.
Yeah, the Historical Society.
Yeah.
Anyway, they found a place for him. It's a nice little property.
Little. I hate to clean it. Yeah.
Of course, he settles in and he starts playing music again and merging himself into his musical thingy-wing. Of course, then he starts experiencing banging at, say, exactly 6 o'clock in the morning. Obviously.
Yeah, it's the same thing. Goes on for about 30 seconds. Goes bang, 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 and all of a sudden stops.
Yeah.
Every morning like clockwork.
Yeah.
What a good alarm clock.
Yeah,
Hey?
according to the story I told you about, the true story, Russell, the real Russell, also experienced the same thing. And he says every time at 6, every time he gets out of bed, it stops. Of course. Anyway, I imagine the same thing happens here. Anyway, at first he thinks it's just probably the pipes. Like they always say it's the pipes.
They always say that in these movies, don't they?
Well, it does sound like a little bit like jiggling of the pipes
bang, bang,
in
bang,
these
bang.
old houses.
Or the heater for the house. You know, the what do you call it? Yeah, furnace.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, as he's let me see. He then experiences some other weird stuff. Like he notices the sinks and the baths are starting to fill up with water. Like someone just turned on the taps and just let them, water run. Of course, it can't be him.
And one night he sees this, and he sees the apparition of a young boy in the bathtub.
Anyway, he starts questioning his sanity, and he also asks the lady, Claire, that's her name is, who they become very close. I think I like to think there's a budding romance going there, but it's too soon to tell because he just lost his wife and child.
Yeah.
Anyway, so they start piecing together the clues, like who lived in the house previously.
They did an investigation, yeah.
Yeah, they also found a secret room that's somewhere in the attic or some
Yeah,
part
I
of
see.
the
In
house.
the attic, there's a hidden room where we believe the young boy had his bedroom.
Yeah, they discover notebooks, probably from tutoring sessions. The thing is, this goes way back many years.
Yeah.
And, of course, it's all written in kids' school writing, obviously. Duh. Anyway, so they then start piecing it together. They also found out a girl lived there with her parents, and they assumed it was probably her, probably her handwriting. They eventually conducted a seance.
Yep.
Where they bring in a seance, thanks
A
to
medium and an automatic writer and stuff, yeah.
Sort of from a colleague. I guess he's in one of those
went to the parapsychology thing.
Spiritualist type psychologist. He explains how there are some that are fake, but others that could help, and they're remarkable when you think about it. Anyway, this one is one of the remarkable ones, meaning one of the special ones that can give you a good diagnosis on the house.
Yeah.
So she arrives there, and she starts contacting the sounds while they're recording it on his special recorder.
Hey, the old good reel-to-reel tape recorders. I used to have one of those.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So she at the same time is doing the automatic writing part.
Automatic writing, they call it.
Where she starts writing, and she asks the spirit about his or her identity. Of course, they ask him, are you the girl in this house? And it said no. And then we find out it's a little boy named Joseph.
And he's actually 6 years old, not 9 years old.
And he was, he lived in the house, and we find out much more on the tape recorder because most of the time...
Yeah, you hear the kids whispering or you hear him talking like that.
Yeah.
Because tape recorders obviously pick up white noise and EMF and different things. Who watch Coast Adventures? And
I like to think there's probably shouting hard, but they're in the spiritual world, so who knows what deception is over there?
Ew.
So it's hard to tell. Anyway, we then work out that Joseph died in the room, and he was drowned by his own father, and his body was sort of taken to a ranch and dumped into a well.
They had a ranch nearby, and they threw him down the well.
Yeah.
And disposed of the body. Now the plot thickens, doesn't it?
Yes.
Come on.
So anyway, they do find out about the ranch and the house itself originally belonged to the Carmichael family. Richard Carmichael, and of course, his son was he's disfigured. He has he's.
I'll explain that. The boy who just got killed was Joseph Carmichael.
Yes.
And he was a young boy, 6 years old, had health issues,
yeah.
and he wasn't expected to live past the age of 21. Now, his grandfather's will left everything to him, not his father.
No, he was an executive for the estate, whatever they call it.
Not an executor, he was a trustee for the child, so it wasn't his money, he had to look after it for his son. But if his son died before he was turned 21, all the estate would be handed over to a charity or something or other.
Yeah.
Daddy didn't want this, obviously.
His son he couldn't walk. He was confined to a wheelchair.
Yeah, he might have had major problems with polio and different things. I don't know, it doesn't say. But
anyway,
he gets rid of the little boy anyway.
Yeah. Anyway,
he gets a new one.
So we then find out about the orphanage where he got adopted from, which was destroyed.
Funny that.
Anyway, they do find out about the will and how the grandfather was the late wife's was father, obviously. So she would have had would have gotten the money, and of course it would have been handed down to her son.
So his wife's father's money to go to her, but she wasn't around, so it goes to her son, not her husband.
Yeah. Anyway, so.
Didn't need a prenup in those days, did they? No.
Anyway, so they piece it together, and they also find out where the ranch was. It's actually now a set of houses.
Yeah, the housing estate. Our house has been built on it. Yeah,
and they also find that the well, which was positioned, was over another new house.
Well, under a house built over it. Yeah.
Of course, they go visit the place, and they find that, of course, there's a house there, and it's a nice property. They also talk to the lady there, and they explain the story. And she at first would have not believed them,
but thought
she found out
something had happened.
Yeah.
A day or two earlier, which made her more acceptable to their story.
The day of this, they did the seance thing, was the day when her daughter woke up in the middle of the night and got scared of a drowning kid in another
He's coming up through the
room.
Floor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this happens again after they leave. After she wanted a little bit more time to think about what was underneath their floorboards, she wants to sleep on it until she can figure out if she wants to help.
But the ghost didn't want that.
Of course, it frightens the little girl, and the mother decides, okay, I'm definitely going to give in to your weirdness. So both Russell and her son, I think her son, they start digging through they actually use a chainsaw to break through the wood.
They cut through the floor.
And then they used shovels to dig through the...
So they found the well, the shrouds, the brickwork, block work.
Yeah.
They went down about, 10 metres maybe?
Yeah, who knows.
Yeah, something.
And eventually they find some bones, of the Joseph's Carmichael's bones.
They found a hand, and then they got the police involved to examine the body.
The police come in, and they took the bones for examinations, and probably to whatever the people who examine bones.
Now, on the tape recording earlier, he did mention metal.
Yeah, a holy metal.
No, he just said metal. He didn't know what it was. But so John goes back there after the police are gone. He breaks in, and he goes out and digs around. And he gradually, with the help of the spirit, finds it. It's a christening medal with the name of the boy and his date of birth and different things. Yeah. And his name is Joseph Carmichael.
Yeah.
Aha.
Of course, now they got this information, but of course, Russell is beginning to wonder whether this will be enough to convince the senator. See this?
Who's supposed to be Joseph?
Who's supposedly this new Joseph Carmichael who's adopted is a senator. So anything that will jeopardize his career, like he considers him blackmail and stuff. After he approaches him.
He thought he's trying to blackmail. How much do you want?
Yeah.
He said, I don't want any bloody money. I want the truth to come out. Your father killed his child.
Of course, he presses the holy mail into the window, and I guess this present, the senator one, has also a copy of the holy metal, and he's starting to wonder what's going on. And he then also gets Claire, who was part of the Historic Society group, because he sort of was one of the organizers, I think,
either trustee or
sponsor
something,
or whatever, and gets her the sack.
Fired for other people in other countries.
He also sends a detective to retrieve his medal and to retrieve any information from him that he didn't get at the airport.
And the funny part is...
Here it is.
He didn't get it.
Of course. He keeps on saying... the detective says, you stole it from him. Yet, no, this is not yours. It belonged to that dead child that was in the well.
Yep, exactly.
No,
and he said, I'll come back for search warrant and strip the space bare, didn't he?
Yeah, he was actually, I think, he was very threatening, this guy.
He was, very naughty.
Yeah. Enanyway, this is where Claire comes and tells John about the bad news that she was sacked from her job as in a role in History Society. Anyway, later on, after she leaves, and we hear Joseph up in the attic, and then we hear the mirror shattering and breaking, and we get a vision of the detective Dimwit or
DeWitt. Not Dimwit.
Well, he should change his name to Dimwit.
Dimwit, yeah, whatever.
Because he should have known what he was messing with.
Yes.
Anyway, he also didn't believe about the seance and he probably just thinks it was all just another blackmail attempt on the senator.
Probably.
Anyway, soon enough, detective, he's killed in a car crash where the car is flipped over off screen.
On its roof.
Yeah, we don't see the flipping, but we...
No, you see the car upside down, these bodies in it, and it doesn't look like he's moving, and he's dead.
Uh-huh.
And
there's no other cars in the area.
And the senator gets a phone call saying he is dead.
Yeah.
And then, oops.
Then
he softens a bit towards John, doesn't he?
Yeah. Finally, John is given his day of meeting the Senator Joseph Carmichael, and he tells the story about what he experienced and how that the Joseph that they found in the well was the real one, and he was replaced with this guy, and
his father killed the little boy, and he's saying, no, my father was a really good guy and fantastic and wonderful, and
he also tries to.
No, he wasn't.
He also thought that John was just blackmailing him, and he says, "Okay, how much?"
Get his checkbook out.
He got his checkbook out and thought that he was going to take this information to either to the media or something. And of course, John just wants to make it all clear.
Yeah,
that
he wants to get the matter to be resolved.
Yeah. And he tells him that all this was not meant to be yours. It belonged to that sick child.
The dead boy. Yeah.
And it was Joseph was killed for profit, and this was murder. And of course, the man kept saying that his father is not a murderer. But here's the funny part. I think John suspects that the senator knew he was not his son.
Well, he would have been about 6 years old when he got adopted, so he would have had some memory. But here's the funny. John gave him the medal from the deceased boy, and he had it. He looked at his. Mm-hmm. He threw his across the room.
Yes.
And he put the medal of the dead boy over a picture of his father that was on his desk.
Yeah.
And then what happened?
Yeah. Well, before John left, he says that the senator says, if you speak a word to anyone, you will wish you would never been born, or something like that.
You take legal action on it.
Yeah.
Okay, get on to it.
But John doesn't care because he did what he could, and he gave the documents the seance recordings to him and says,
Yeah.
"That's it, I'm done."
Yeah, he
Meaning,
gave it to the senator. Here's the file.
Yeah.
Here's the stuff. Do what you like. He walked out the door.
Yeah.
But
And
then he put the medal across the picture of his father.
yeah, and then John goes back to the house and he tries. And at this point, Claire is actually inside the house trying to find John at this point and not aware.
She's hearing a voice.
Yeah,
Yep.
it was a mixture of I think it was mostly John Russell's voice, for the house, which I think
The spirit was emulating it
Emily, which often does.
to lead her into a particular direction.
Yeah, and this is where we get the chase scene with his wheelchair in this scene where it's rolled across.
His empty wheelchairs chase the lady through the top floor of the house.
Yeah.
And she falls downstairs.
Of course, she stumbles into John, and he takes her outside, tells her to get into the car, even though after the experience with the detectives, I don't think I'll get into another car at this point. And then he goes back inside the house, trying to plead with Joseph to calm down. But I think at this point...
Joseph's annoyed.
Yeah, and we then get back to the senator, who's looking at the holy medal and the picture frame of his father.
And jingle
it
around
starts jiggling, and you start hearing Joseph, the dead Joseph's voice, coming through at the scene. And this is where the astro projection of the senator,
the old senator guy,
Joseph, is being led up the stairs
into the old family house,
into the house, and up to the dead Joseph's room, where he sees
a flashback.
Flashback to when the real Joseph died.
Was killed by his father. And he realises he's been living a lie.
While this is happening, Russell is watching the entire thing, and then he eventually gets saved by Claire after he gets knocked out by the chandelier, I think it was.
Yeah, the chandelier smashes down on him, and he rolls out of the way. He doesn't get knocked out by the chandelier.
He gets out thanks to Claire, and then we later hear that the senator, he died of a heart attack.
At the same time he was in the house, he had a heart attack. Probably
the shock
of what he saw, and maybe because of Joseph... might have helped a bit. I don't know.
Yeah. Then we watch. They go back. I think they were not too far from the senator's own new home.
No,
obviously.
I think it's just down the road a bit.
Yeah. And in this shot, we see the hospital tenants taking his body to the morgue or the funeral home or whatever.
Well, there you go.
Then we actually cross over the next day, where the house it's completely burnt down because it was burnt down.
Amongst the rubble is
the wheelchair.
It's a bit charred, but still sitting upright.
And the music box, which plays his lullaby melody.
It pops open, doesn't it?
Yes, it
does. And it starts playing the melody that... actually, interesting, the melody back... This dead boy used to listen to it when John first moved in the house. He'd never heard the melody before.
I should have mentioned this earlier.
And he wrote this nice new piece, a nice melody, and it was note perfect to what was in the music box.
That's what comes to mind when I think about that scene. I think, oh wait, is this plagiarism? Is this copyright?
Copyright breach.
You can't do that. You just break it.
Yeah, so interesting. It was really good.
Anyway, it's a nice movie to me.
Nice feel at the end.
And I like the fact that the Changeling comes from folktale when you think about it.
With elves or so demons taking newborns and swapping them for demon babies or something or other.
Right.
Something, was it?
Yeah, it's an old folktale, and of course it applies.
I think someone swapped it.
It seems kind of cool that such stuff would often occur in such modern day stories, even if it's not fairies. It's more like the human beings would just replace someone and hopes to get away with it. But then the truth comes out, like this happening with this person finding out that all this time this person was not who they claimed to be, even though if they're both boys were 7 or 9 years of age, they would no doubt have memories of their past. Oh, at least the boy that was adopted would at least remember what the orphanage was like, right, Dad?
Exactly.
I mean, isn't that how it works? I mean, at 7, I even have a few memories of when I was 7, so it's hard to shake memories like that.
Sarah, my memory is so good. I can remember the first house I lived in. I can draw the floor plan of it, and I left there when I was 3. So, yeah, at 6 years old, I'd say, look, first day of school. I remember first day of school.
Got
I
it.
was 5. So, yeah, you remember things.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I do remember certain things myself, Mike. I mean, like, when we moved, I don't remember our first house when we were living in Queensland, obviously, but I do remember when we were living in New South Wales at the time.
Yeah.
Of course, I do remember the streets and the roads, and I remember all sorts of good memories. Of course, but then again, this has nothing to do with us, obviously. But my point I'm trying to make is that such memories cannot disappear. I mean, no matter what movies will tell you, they never ever tell you the full story, that you cannot let those certain memories disappear. I also think the Senator Joseph, I like to think he did suspect that he may have been adopted, and he, just like his late father, was trying to keep it hidden.
But maybe didn't know that his father actually killed the boy.
Yeah, he probably...
he said, "Oh, my son died, you're my replacement."
Yeah.
Yeah.
He probably thought that he may have been... that he was only 7, so adoption was...
He adopted him, gave him a name. He gave him his own name, not the last name. Changed his first name to Joseph, legally.
Yeah, and of course, this took place overseas, and, well, not really overseas. They just adopted, went to Switzerland for, until he reached maturity, like, say, 18 or 19. And when he came back to America, everyone assumed that was Joseph,
Yeah, he'd
or
been healed. Lord, the saints be praised.
Yeah, something like that.
Miracle cure. Yeah.
I imagine in reality, the Joseph who was confined to a wheelchair, that would have been probably for life, meaning the miracle cure would have not
saved him.
He
had some major problem which he probably would have not lived to see his 21st birthday. That's one of the reasons why Daddy got rid of him. Not come back a healthy individual from his European holiday.
Yeah, no doubt. Anyway, no matter what the waters say. Anyway, what do the reviewers say about this movie? I'd like to know that.
It's all jumbled up a little bit. Okay. Yeah. I think the general consensus is, and just having a quick flip through the notes here. A lot of them like George C. Scott's acting.
Good.
A lot of them think the haunted house room sets, a lot of it was actually in the studio.
Yeah, I figured that.
But the outside of the buildings are actually real buildings. So, obviously they use those and they morphed them all in and made the outside there, and then they went back to the studio to do all the work. But everyone liked them to a certain degree because it told a good tale. It had good, strong acting by George C. Scott and that lady, whatever her name is. And even Rotten Tomatoes gives it 83%.
That's good to know.
Because that wasn't too bad. Someone said a minor classic. A little thing like that.
Well, it did come off. When you think about 1980 movies, it was moving from the 70s to the 80s, so it was kind of crossing a bridge from those old movies that deal with thrillers, mystery, and a bit of hammer horror.
And that's the problem, because
then we move into 80s.
You get different eras of filmmaking. You look at the things like your Frankensteins and Dracula's, the early ones back in the 1930s. Okay, Universal Studio did the run of them. And then I think the following decade, Hammer started making their own versions. But then the Frankenstein, Draculas, and that Wolfman and that sort of stuff died off, and he started getting things like Creatures from Black Lagoon and all those sci-fi type things taking over from the old horror movies. Then you had all these B movies came out, and all of a sudden they did their run, and then something else took over. And I think depending on what part of the era you're in, whether you're going to get a good response or a bad response. And I think this one here was probably in the middle, or when it was actually getting to the end of that sort of period where they wanted something new. Possibly. Yeah.
Well, as I said, this movie came out with a lot of other movies that were either the best things you ever seen or the most traumatic scene. I think this came out around the time when Cannibal Holocaust came out directly at the same. Well, maybe not directly at the same
well,
time,
yeah,
but
very
probably
good.
different months, obviously, apart. But aside from that, a lot of movies, especially popular movies, came out during the 80s. I mean, during 1980.
They had a lot of good movies back in the 80s, but they had westerns, they had sci-fis, they had horrors, they had and obviously a whole plethora of movies, films coming out. Yeah, some are going to take a back seat occasionally. This didn't take a back seat, but it might have fared better if there was less competition.
Yeah,
how's that? Yeah.
Fair point.
Now here, I don't normally do awards and recognitions, but I will do this. Okay, the Changeling won the first ever Genie Award for Best Canadian Film. Because
so it's in Canada.
That's what it says here. Now it says here. It also won the following Genie Awards. Okay, Best Foreign Actor, George C. Scott. Best Foreign Actress, Trish Van Devere. Best Adapted Screenplay, William Gray and Diana Maddox. Best Art, art design, Trevor Williams. Best cinematography, John Coughlin or whatever. Best sound, blows a handful of people there. Best sound editing.
Good.
They won all these awards for this film.
Brilliant.
Yeah, and so when you get all those awards and win, not nominations, they won them.
Hooray!
And that's where you go, look at, wow, they did something right.
I did thought when I was telling Mike about this movie, I thought, wouldn't it be great, as a bit of a add-on to the story, is that the Senator Joseph Carmichael would turn out to be just as bad or corrupt as his father, or his adopted father.
I don't think he would. I think he had an idea that he did replace the original Joseph, but he didn't know that his father killed the original Joseph.
I just meant like
that's. I think that was the only difference. Yeah.
I mean, it's just an idea in my head where if I made my own version of the Changeling, I would make the Senator Joseph a little bit more, just as muddy grubby as his father, his adopted father, and that if any, and say this was not the first attempt at people trying to uncover his adoption and trying to steal money from him.
I don't think it warranted. I think really he was living a lie. They didn't know he was living, and that's why it was a shock to him when my father did this. I've been living a lie, and then he was shown his father killing the young boy, and it was too hard for him. He died. His heart gave out. Shock, horror. My father, I'm living a lie.
I know. I'm just saying.
No, I think it works better.
I know. I just try making it my own story up in my head.
Yeah, but I think it works better that way.
Where, that he does believe the character when he finds out, uncovers the truth, and he tries to bribe him, tells him not to say this to the media, even though eventually, I think in my story, that it would be interesting if other people uncovered the truth, and he kept bribing them, hoping to keep his record and his father's record, sponged, or at least trying to keep it clean. But unfortunately, it's not working because the facts are still in public knowledge. Like the fact that no doubt the adoption records would not be totally gone.
Yeah, we have to go looking for them, Sarah.
Yeah.
It was about 1906, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Something like that. And this is back in the 80s. This senator guy is in his 70s.
Yeah.
Who's going to go back and check for something which may and may not exist?
And not to mention, who knows what kind of disfigurement, leg injury. I mean, not leg injury. That his that the late Joseph had.
Yeah.
What if it's one of those ones that you cannot really get better from?
If he went to Europe to go get healed by some doctor, there wouldn't have been necessarily any records of what clinic he went to.
Yeah,
so how would you find out? See what I mean?
Yeah, that's true.
Right. Okay.
I mean, they would
have been buried in the past.
It would have been. If there was such records, they would mention it and say this kid went to hospital, and it would have been written down his name, unless he was they wrote some fake documents and tried to pass them off as real. I mean, there's possibilities. People can falsify documents, in this day and age, and probably back then too, because people would think there's no chance of you checking. But then once you do check,
that's the whole point.
Yeah.
you have to have a reason to check. It's all like building a website. If no one knows it exists, how's anyone ever going to find it?
Yeah, I felt the same way when I was thinking about that whole Natalia Grace documentary that's been coming out. I still don't know who to believe whenever I watch that documentary. I feel like I don't either believe Natalia's statements or the her adopted father's statements.
I think there's a little bit of grey area on both sides.
I think both sides are grey, and they're putting too much drama. It doesn't even feel real, because no way in hell would two people interact and act like it's all okay, that it's all water under the bridge, when actually
splash.
Such trauma would not be that easily sponged from the record and moved on when you think about it.
You trying to say expunged, are you?
I don't know. I mean, they're trying to make it so like one of those drama sitcoms where everything is, all's well and ends well. The nice, whatever you've done in the past you don't have to worry about it because it's all in the past.
Okay.
Sort of thing. But that's not how the world works today. I mean, that's not how the world works.
Hello, can we move on? We get a bit
tired
now.
That documentary seems to think that it doesn't feel real. Like they're even looking at season 3, which I think is odd when I think about it, because why would they make a season 3 unless they're trying to dig up more dirt?
A quest for more money. There you go.
That's probably it. Anyway, so let's rate this one.
I wouldn't say everything that came out of the 80s. But they made a lot of good movies back in that period there.
80s and 70s and probably 60s.
Had a lot of good actors. I'm not knocking the new actors today, don't get me wrong. But they had a lot of good actors back in those days. They had a lot of older actors who'd been plying the trade for 10, 20 years, maybe 30 years, and had all this resource of good talent. And this is one of George C. Scott was not a young man. He might have been in his 50s or so. I don't know. He looked older. But he'd been acting for probably about 20 or 30 years. He wasn't just, hey, pretty boy out of the salon there, go and stand in front of the camera.
Yeah.
He was a well-seasoned actor.
Yeah, it's unlike...
Yeah, and he looked good, and he acted well.
Yeah, and like I said, if I made a remake of this movie, they probably... people in the studio would probably say, cast this gorgeous-looking model-type actor who looks hot and good looking, but
he can't act to save his life.
He couldn't act to save his life.
Now, having said remake, they were thinking of doing a remake of this about 5 or 6 years ago, but they haven't.
Oh, okay.
I can't. They were thinking about it, and they put some money about doing a treatment and whatever. Haven't heard anything since. So, excuse me. Yeah. So there you go. Now, I am going to give it a whopping great. I'd say 9.5. I can't find anything majorly wrong with it at all. Filming's good, story's good, acting's good. So I'm going to give it about a 9.5. How's that? I'm
going to give it a 10.5. A 10 out of 10.
10, yeah, okay.
I think it's pretty cool, especially the fact I like the chemistry, and I like the fact that George's performance was really well done. And I liked how the special effects, like Mike says, before CGI, is very, creative.
Yeah, and they had to think out. Back in the early days, I mean, you used to make rain, you'd have a light outside on the other side of a piece of glass and have some water trickling down it, and then the light would put a shadow on the wall, looking like it was raining outside. I mean, all the old basic things, and we just say it looks like rain. So they used to have to do it all manually back in those days, and it worked. And it may not have been harder. I mean, CGI might take more work to do it, and it doesn't necessarily make it kind of look better. So so some of the old techniques still work well. Anyway, now let's get on to where do you get it.
Yeah, where to get it. First
and foremost, I'm going to say this. Being an older movie, if you go searching for it, it's definitely on Laserdisc, because it's also going to be on VHS or maybe even beta tapes. So if you go looking for your favourite places to source these things, be careful. Now, eBay, there is plenty for sale. Amazon, it's for rent and for sale. So other places, streaming services, other places you can buy it, you may find it. So I would suggest this is a great look. Now, note, other films with the same name. There's a 2008 movie, that's one you mentioned before, Angelina Jolie, was it? Mm-hmm. And there's also a 1993 movie with the same name.
Yeah. So, guys, be careful.
Yeah, this is 1981. If you're not sure, George C. Scott, main actor, or directed by William Gray.
Yeah, you
no,
might.
I'm not William Gray. Peter Maddock.
You might accidentally see someone upload a picture of the DVD on Amazon, and it's
the wrong
and it has the wrong date because it was
it's a re-release date
because they detailed the wrong description of the movie or the wrong date.
Sometimes they do a re-release when they say, we'll re-release on Blu-ray, and sometimes it's the re-release, the new release date. They put that date on instead of the original date.
Yeah,
but just always check out the actor or the director or somebody to cross-reference it.
Yeah, I should mention, guys, that there was one time just this week I was actually browsing some movies on Facebook. I often do that whenever I'm looking for new movies to actually review with Mike here. And I came across the Buried Alive. And so you guys know it's not exactly the one we were reviewing.
Another one.
But when I went on their IMDb thingy, they put the wrong trailer in it. It had the one that we reviewed that time. See, they put in. It said this one was done in 1980, I think it was. I mean, not 1980. I mean, probably around the 1990 or sort of. But this one was. It was clearly there were two different movies. That someone just. Instead of actually going online and trying to find the actual trailer, they put the trailer of a different Buried Alive, and which is
that happens.
Counter doesn't really fit into the storyline.
So that on Amazon or eBay, was it?
This was on IMDb, where people just naturally put movies and
someone's the wrong information.
They put the wrong information And I don't like that sort of thing when it comes to movies like that. They just, it
doesn't hurt. It doesn't help.
Even though you can't find the trailer for it, maybe this particular movie went directly to TV and there was no trailer for it.
Well, there would have been a trailer that would have been put on TV, so this is going to be happening next week, or tomorrow, or
There might be. I mean, that would be.
Anyway, do you want to stop waffling?
So you know where to get it. You know how to go on Amazon or eBay and stuff like that.
Or your favourite other places.
And all the other places.
Yeah.
I don't see one on YouTube or Tubi at the moment, but I'm hoping that one day they might put it on Tubi for you. So fingers crossed. Anyway, that's everything we need to cover on the Changeling. So you know where to find us for our next podcast episode. When I haven't worked out exactly what we're going to review next, but I'll let you guys know ASAP.
It will be a surprise for us too.
Yeah, all right. That's about it from us, guys. So this is Sarah Stephenson.
And Michael.
Saying, see you guys around on Boys and Ghouls Film Review. Bye for now.
Bye,
and have a good week.
Yeah. See you around.